Welcome to this week's episode of the Heart to Heart podcast. This is Nadia from One-on-One Next Level. Marc and Brian had a fascinating conversation with Mitch Clem, a seasoned talent manager with a captivating career journey. Mitch took us behind the curtain of Hollywood, sharing what truly sets an actor apart and how his own experiences, both as a struggling actor and a determined entrepreneur, shape the way he helps others achieve their dreams. If you've ever wondered how to turn setbacks into stepping stones, this episode is packed with wisdom and inspiration. Before you listen, be sure to support the podcast with a 5-star rating and review.
You know how you can tell that a restaurant is really well run? You can tell the management of a restaurant. It's very easy. I think you already know this answer.
No, go ahead.
Mitch, now this is just, you can always tell the way a restaurant is run when you go to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom and it's spick and span, you know it's run well. Have you ever gone to like a really nice restaurant and there was like remnants on the floor? Sure. And that's because they don't have a system where someone is on top of that bathroom. But when someone is on top of that bathroom, you will not see that. So what I'm getting at here, you're like, where's this going? What does this have to do with me? Is the same thing with packaging and the way an actor comes across, you know what I mean? To like make you go as a manager, even as an audience member, wow, that person has me as soon as they came in the door. Is there anything you could share with us, you know, just like that experience, you know, with the restaurant? You could share with us like what constitutes you, Mitch Clem, to say, I want to get to know that person more. I'm gonna call them in my office.
Are you asking me that question right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Has this started?
Yeah. No. We're just in a conversation. It's just a conversation.
Well, I mean, look, I think to kind of simplify that, because, you know, there's a laundry list of things that we look for, you know, but I think that I would want to hope I talk about it. This is the rest of reps too, collectively. I mean, you know, we look, you know, an initial impression of somebody. We need to see there's value in that person, you know, somebody that we feel that we can put X amount of effort into, you know, and get a return. I mean, there is certainly a sense of commerce here in Los Angeles at the level that we play at. Okay. I think it's not unlike an actor who says, you know, there are certain jobs I'm going to take because they're going to pay my bills. And there are certain jobs that I'm going to consider because I love the material. It's not going to pay me much, but I don't care because, you know, I'm an artist and this is a piece of work that I would like to do personally. And sometimes you get an episode of something, you know, that's not maybe a great show, but, you know, it's going to pay your bills for the next month. That's okay. I mean, you know, I think that we all take a certain responsibility financially when we take this step into a professional arena. Okay. And I think that we all separately have to, you know, draw our lines, you know, and probably everybody's line's a little different on what we're going to, you know, what we're going to deal with. There are certain types of acting industry types of jobs that I'm not interested in pursuing for my clients, and probably would not sign somebody if that was their main focus.
But Mitch, like for instance, I'm interested in everyone. No, I can't work with it. But so like for you, what is it that about someone that, you know what I mean, that really makes you say, I want to know this person?
I almost said, you know, they've got to kind of just really pop, you know, and a lot of times that pop is personality, but sometimes it's not.
So it's not like a clothing item, it's personality.
Well, no, I mean, that was going to kind of be my go-to answer right there. But I started thinking about it, and sometimes I've been interested in somebody just from purely watching the work. If they send me a scene or I see a tape or something, which would have nothing to do with personality. I think there's just a lot of things. I mean, I know what I respond to. I know what types of actors that are easier for me to get into rooms. I kind of know what I need to see on a resume, to kind of help me use that to get them in front of people. I kind of know where those, at least with me, where those lines are drawn that makes my type of pitching the most effective. So I think I try to quickly just see if an actor, a prospective client, maybe kind of fits within my own skill set on where I really, can be my most effective. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, and I always walk into these relationships, um, as a long-term commitment. That's how I like to look at it until it's not, until that changes for whatever reason, and they do change once in a while. But I enter all of these relationships 100% committed and thinking that we're going to take the long journey together. And I think that's, I think that is more probably thinking on management terms than it is agent terms.
That's impressive. So it sounds to me like you like that opportunity to help create that path that the actor can, go from A to B to Z to C to,
Yeah, because I think a lot of times we have to start at A.
somewhere. Yeah, everywhere.
It isn't like we can just go sign somebody that's already generating income for us. I mean, that's difficult.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that's kind of like the audacity of thinking that I can just kind of pop in after somebody's already making money, and say, "Hey, where's my cut? Because I'm going to get you into a room that somebody else laid the groundwork for 10 years." To make it easy for me to step in now and say, "Hey, here we go." I mean, it happened, but
When you say it happens, what happens?
well, I mean, it happens. Not all of my clients that are known, I didn't start all of them. I mean, I came in at some point after they were already successful, which is great.
And some not. Yes.
Some not.
Yeah.
And some you just start right. You're fortunate enough to meet them in the beginning. When you have a feeling that this person is special and has the tools and that can be and that can be one of the choices in a room that I put them in. I think that's really key right there. Is that it's so competitive once you're in that room auditioning that I personally have to feel, for me to make a commitment, I have to feel that you're going to be one of the choices in that room. Doesn't have to be the choice, but you need to be top 3, top 4. I think.
Yeah.
Because I think that when you can audition and when you can make that type of initial impression in a room in front of buyers, in front of casting, to where there's like a consistency of she's one of our choices, and we'll let you know. Here's a callback. When you start really performing at that level right there, I truly believe at that point it's just kind of a numbers game. I also believe that if you're not quite at that point and you're just never part of that, let's put a pin in him group. If if it's just audition after audition after audition and not many pins, no callbacks. I mean, I don't think that really, that tells me something right there.
Does that then change that relationship to where you're like, maybe this person
It's where I'm at in the relationship. I mean, I do represent clients that aren't always choices, at this level, and we work on that. How can we up this game a little bit, Because I do feel, and one of the reasons I like your company too is the fact that I'm a big believer And at the end of the day, it's what you do in that room right there to get a job. Okay, somebody has to see something. And that something might not even be the audition. It might be how you walked. It might be what you said when you walked in the room, even. Okay. Don't know. Hard to say. There's like a little magic that happens in a room.
And that's this business, which is beautiful.
That's right. And I think that if you can't get to the point to kind of create a little magic in a room, I think that's a problem.
Does God create that, or does the person create that magic?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't know. But I think, I've been lucky enough to kind of see it in people a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
That like a thing that like a light, right?
That's right. And sometimes somebody can email me cold. Okay. Don't know them from Adam. I can read what they write.
And the words speak to you.
And there's just something about it that kind of pops.
Yeah.
Okay. And that encourages me then to go ahead and click on, to do a deeper dive into that person, click on some links, whatever, to kind of see their work a little bit. And then if that kind of pops, I think to myself, man, I can't believe this person isn't represented, So then I make an appointment, and 9 times out of 10, come to find out that person has, oh yeah, I've got 10 other appointments. Like everybody saw it. It wasn't just me seeing it.
Right.
Everybody saw it. So sometimes I kind of gauge, not really my interest, but sometimes if I see that and I meet somebody, I'm like, well, how many other appointments have you had? I'm trying to gauge, is this what I saw was real? I mean, did other people see it? Do you have 10 other appointments? Because that gets me excited. People saw it. I'm not crazy. Right?
Okay.
Other people get it. Because it's not likely that I'm the only person that would see it. I mean, it really needs to be a competition within reps when somebody kind of has that thing. And I don't know what that, I can't define that thing. I don't know, but it pops. It's there. It's there. Casting sees it, buyers see it. Because the reason I think there's proof of that is that how many times do you hear a buyer or a cash director say, oh, so-and-so walked in and that was it. We knew it. Well, why was it that? I mean, what did they do that 49 other people that walked into that room that day didn't? Why was it so clear to buyers? That's our guy. Whatever that is, it's important.
But
is it being exactly right? Is it just being so right for something by nature that it just exudes? As in when you're not really right for something and you're in a room, are you just not going to be part of the real competition because you probably shouldn't be in the room anyway, because you're just not really right for it. And the person that's the most right for it is the person that pops? Don't know.
So the objective is to catch the fish before some other one the fish goes to another hook. If it's that person.
I think if it's that person, there's probably a lot of hooks in the water, and you want to be the one that reels them in.
Well, equivalent to, Mitch, they say when you come up with a great idea, if you don't act on that idea, you can be assured that idea is going to pop into someone else's head. Like the creation of the iPhone, or you know what I mean? Like it's a similar thing. Yeah.
Well, another thing that I believe in is that, we all make a living off of commission. Okay. We make a living when our actors book a job. And this leads into this conversation because, we have a lot at stake when we sign somebody. We're about to put a massive effort into this person. An effort that we're not going to put into other people because we're going to take the time to do it for this person. It's exclusive. My time is spent exclusively with the clients that I've, decided to work for. Okay. And that focus on that group of people has to generate income. So that's why I take signing very seriously. Okay, it's got to work within the whole dynamic of being productive. Okay, to check some boxes. And I would want to think that the actor is also looking for a financial situation in getting a rep as well. They want to work, they've got bills to pay. But it's it's hard to have it's unlike actors, it's hard to have a side hustle when you're a rep. There's not a other job. There's nothing else that pays bills or pays staff or pays the office rent. Not to mention getting into your own personal life of making a living and raising a family and putting kids through college, just off of 10%.
Right.
Okay. And if you think about it too much, it's like, wow, astounding.
Yeah.
Considering that all of this gets paid for just from 10% of what actors make. Okay. So it really, so when you're out there really looking, that responsibility, my company and my family sets some parameter in what I look for. And it sets an urgency. And urgency, I think, is kind of a key word here.
Yeah, that's a great one.
When you are urgent, you work at a level that is purely focused. Okay, there's an adrenaline, there's a sense of, I'm not going to say a sense of fear, but there's a lot on the line. There's things at stake. Okay.
You get more done.
You get a lot done. You're very productive. And it's almost like, kind of a scenario like, I can remember in my 20s, one time in particular, actually not far from here, I got a boot on my car one day. I walked out of a temp job that I had, and I had a boot on my car, and I knew I had parking tickets that I hadn't paid, so I knew it was going to be pricey. And I remember calling up the number on the thing, and it was just, it was a number I just simply couldn't fathom. I forget what it was now. $500, $700. I just didn't have it. You've got like 3 days, before that car's towed, and then you really are in trouble. Okay, it just gets deeper. So I this is like a Tuesday, and I remember thinking, and deadline was like Friday, and I'm thinking, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to get paid. But you know what? I needed that car. Okay, so I started thinking about a couple of friends that owed me a little bit, some other things, and I could borrow. No, this person just got a little something. Maybe I could, And guess what? What happened?
You figured it out. You got it. Where there's a need, where there's a will, there's a way.
I figured it out because the fire was lit under my butt.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I try to work under that same type of urgency with this business.
Okay.
That's why you're successful.
And handle yourself.
Well, it's just there's that. I don't have a choice but to make you work. Okay, I have to make you work because I got a lot riding on. You walking in there and booking a job. Okay, now to apply that philosophy to actors. Okay, and I know this because I came out here as an actor. Okay,
from Oklahoma.
Yeah. Came out here.
Hey, it's Brian. I'm dropping in on an important announcement. What you need to know is you have more control over your career than you think. The thing standing between you and the career you want is your connections. And that's where One-on-One Next Level comes in. If you are not a member yet, you can apply to join at oneononenextlevel.com. Press pause and do that now. If you are already a member and you are ready to get back on track, we want to invite you to book a strategy session with us led by myself personally. We will help you prioritize which classes make the most sense given your career goals. You can find these under the Resource Hub in your account portal. We can't wait to hear your success story.
That's what got you out here. So you're in Oklahoma, and at the age of so-and-so, you just... You said, I'm going to LA, or had you had training in Oklahoma? Okay, so you studied where in Oklahoma?
I studied in college. I was a theater major in college.
University of Oklahoma?
No, it's called Phillips University.
Okay.
And I then decided that it was time to come out to LA.
So you didn't consider New York, going to LA?
I wanted television.
Okay, there you go.
And I picked a date and literally just packed up the car.
Wow.
And got in it and drove across the country.
That's a bold move.
And landed here, and just here it is. But
you didn't know anybody out here.
And funny, since I drove out because I had my stuff. It was look, I was young, and it was we weren't as connected back then as we are now to everything.
Hold that thought, Mitch, because once again we're getting back to you're in your 20s, you're coming out here, you don't know anyone, and that expression where there is a need, just like your boot on your car. So in other words, you come out, that's pretty scary for a lot of people. That would stop, but because it did stop you when you come out here, I'm sure. Somehow you met the right people, you found the right place, you found a place to live. All those answers become possible because you have a need.
Yes. However, okay, I also, and I think a lot of actors do this, I came out, I got my place to live.
How did you get your place to live?
My brother in Oklahoma just had a work connection. The woman that lived in LA who said, I think there might be a place in my apartment building, and there was, and it worked. So I kind of got lucky in that. I didn't hop when I first got here. Okay. But however, I had a trajectory similar to probably most actors. I got a place to live. I got into an acting class that I liked.
How did you just heard about it word of mouth?
I had in college, somebody had gifted me a book called Your Film Career. And in the back of it had a list of like 7 places recommended, like, Stella Adler and just the big ones. And I wrote to all of them, and one of them responded and was interested. And so it was a 2-year conservatory. So I came out to focus on that. However, I was so eager to work. Their rule was you can't work during the span.
Oh, okay. The acting, the studio.
And I just, and eventually I was so eager. I eventually I got an agent and started, auditioning, made a choice. However, but my point is, we get our places to live, we get our classes, we start to get our social friends from classes, and we get our job that we need to pay the rent, and we start to create our own social, life bubble, here in LA, and our rent's getting paid from whatever we're doing, and we've got our class, we've got our emotional connections there, and we're pursuing acting because we're in class, and we go out and probably get our first agent or whatever, and whether or not that adds to anything, your first one, very little auditions probably, and I think that sometimes we get a little complacent in that bubble right there, okay? Because part of the urgency leaves because our actual physical survival is not based on getting a job next month. Okay. Your rent's going to get paid. You don't need to get an acting job to pay the rent. You've got your other job to pay the rent. Okay. So, there's a sense of, some of that urgency kind of goes. It did with me.
At that time.
It did. I knew. I could tell once I kind of got into my classes, and once I kind of got my first agent, and then when I kind of got set up, I got a girlfriend, and I had a relationship. So life was. I certainly had created a life for myself here, okay, and it was fun, and nice. And of course, an acting job would have been great, and that was the dream, and that was the goal. But it still kind of stayed in a dream category. Like that's my dream. I'm here pursuing my dreams. Okay, but you know what? My rent didn't depend on it. Okay,
Your rent
and
didn't depend on it.
me getting an acting job.
You were able to pay the rent.
Sure, I worked part time for a company. I worked like 20 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I said, okay, well, I'm not full time, so I'm still available, okay, for acting jobs. Yet, wasn't making much money because it was part time, but it was enough.
Yeah. Which leads to complacency.
So I think complacency. That's a really good. I'm glad you said that word. I think complacency. You got to be careful with. Okay, because I think that we're pursuing something that can be so daunting that sometimes we kind of live maybe in a little bit of denial. Like if I don't put myself out there, I don't have to feel that maybe it's not going to happen or something. I mean, it's easy to stay living within the bubble that you created for yourself that everything's great.
Well, so let me ask you this question that has to do with this. Would you say that complacency, you mentioned that you had to make a choice in the acting program to pretty much violate their rule of not getting sent out, and you made that choice.
Did.
So would you say that when one gets complacent, because I believe, and I don't know if you believe this, I believe that life, we're all here in this life to make choices, and the choices get us to where we are. Ryan's in this seat because of his choices, you're in your choices, and me too, and that's how we get here, right? So would you say that complacency comes when we limit having choices? We don't make the choices. If you don't make any choices, there's nothing that, you just get by.
Well, there isn't really as much need to make the choices when you're complacent. Because your survival isn't based on it.
Right, because you're just sitting around and getting by.
I do think everybody that's self-employed, that doesn't depend on working for a company that writes them a check every week, regardless of what their performance is. Everybody that's self-employed, whose livelihood depends on your daily performance, like you guys here, you guys constantly have to generate and offer things, and it sets an urgency to get things done. And I think that even though actors are in a sense self-employed, it's different because they're not really self-employed as actors. They're self-employed in the pursuit of acting, and they have their side jobs, but I think if they were to walk away from some of the side hustles and really make, their survival based on booking acting jobs, probably their day-to-day process would probably kick up a notch, is my point.
Well, and Mitch, because I don't look at you as a complacent person, and you're a human, and so we all experience times in our lives like you did when you had the complacency. What got you out of that complacency? Like, what happened to you?
Okay, I'll tell you what happened. I want to preface it by saying, like most actors that come out here, that was my thing. Okay, mm-hmm. There wasn't any plan B for me. I came out of here.
Be an actor.
I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I talked all the talk and believed all the stuff, and hardcore. I would say about 3 years in, I noticed that I was complacent. I wasn't really pursuing it like I knew in my head I probably should be. I was still putting effort into it. And I still had all the side hustles and still lived that whole life, acting classes and headshots every so often.
And an
agent and the random audition here and there. Mm-hmm. Okay, to where you can certainly justify that things are going okay because everything was kind of in place. Okay. However, some time had gone by, 3 or 4 years had gone by, and I wasn't, my friends that really were super aggressive were starting to get on their show, was starting to kind of get to that next tier. All my friends that were pursuing other types of careers were starting to get, into their next level of their careers. I, though, was still in this place that I hadn't really moved from. I was feeling a little plateaued. Yet the goal was being an actor, so I would not consider, even when life tried to take me maybe in another direction. I might do a temp job somewhere. I did really well, and the person says, "You know what? Maybe we should talk about you coming on here." No, no, no. I can't. I'm an actor. I got to be open. So I was even ignoring a lot of the things that maybe the universe was trying to. I do feel we're all wired to thrive. I do believe that. I do believe that everything in nature is initially here to move forward. And I do think that we have the capability to get in the way of that. Okay. And so I found myself just complacent and not really pursuing things, yet not willing to give it up. So I was kind of in this weird zone, to where I couldn't fathom the idea of calling it a day, yet I wasn't really pursuing it.
Right.
And
you were behind
I was. And I was still kind of suffering from all the crappy little jobs and worrying about the rent. And at some point in your life, that gets old.
Uh-huh.
Look, when you're 20, 21 years old, it's all romantic.
Right.
It's something to tell on a talk show someday.
And you're going to live forever.
I was down to my last, whatever, before boom. Okay. But you start to get a little bit older, and that starts to tarnish a little bit. And so, but I was stubborn, and so I didn't really want to wrap my head around that wasn't going to be my destiny. Okay, so I kind of stayed in this funk, the crappy little places to live and all this stuff. And one day I woke up and I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't, I remember very vividly. And I didn't this hadn't been planned, this type of breakdown that I had. It just came out of nowhere, and I just dropped to my knees, and I said, done.
And some people would say that's when the light bulb went off. And I'm saying that's when the light bulb went on, right?
Well, let me tell you, I just started praying.
Right.
I just said, I can't do this anymore. And I don't know what it is now that I'm supposed to do, but if you could just lead me into a direction, I will not fight it anymore. It was like the visual was just like me finally putting my hands down. I'm not going to resist anymore.
Believe.
I surrender. Surrender. I'm now going to allow the universe to just take me into a direction that's right for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm out of this place. I wasn't comfortable.
You were not happy.
I was not happy just existing.
How old were you?
25 at this point. Maybe.
Okay.
26. And I got to tell you, I got up from that, called my dad in Oklahoma, and I said, done. I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I've had it. I'm ready to come home. If you could just send me money, I'll get a U-Haul, pack everything on the road. It's like, hold on a second. So we talked about it, and he said, listen, I know you love the industry. I know you love living in LA, which was all true, And he said, you know what? With all the experiences that you've had, out there. Why don't you try to find, why don't you try to find a happy medium? Why don't you try to find something within the industry to pursue so you can at least utilize that time that you've spent out there, make it useful for yourself. It made sense.
Oh, of course.
Great advice.
So, and he sent me some money to pay my rent so I could just kind of breathe. He just kind of bought me some breathing space.
Good man.
So the prayer opened me up, and Dad allowed me some time to like rethink about things. And so, long story short, I made a move into the business side of this, and once that started,
What was that move? What was the first move?
The first move was really just trying to get a job without caring about what the schedule was of it for acting career purposes. But the first was just to get a job somewhere in the industry and to start paying the bills.
Where do you turn to for that job?
You know what? I don't remember how I found it. I looked in whatever.
What was the job?
It was answering phones and setting appointments for this company that kind of claimed to be, a agency looking for parents with kids to get into modeling and stuff.
Okay.
And they had a lot of ads out, and my job was to sit in this room, and as parents would call to find out more information, my job was to put them in front of these two guys. Okay. Now, didn't take me long to figure out. Okay. This was a bad deal for the parents. Yeah. Okay. So I quickly caught on to this. So as the parents would call, of course, they wanted me to tell them some stuff, but that wasn't my job. My job was to,
the two guys are probably like right next to you.
In the walls, right?
Yeah.
So I would kind of lower my voice and say, if you screen your hair still, we send you a list of agents, and if you just send a picture of your kid to them, I was fired instantly.
Good, right? Good you did.
But it planted a seed.
Yes,
it planted a seed, and I thought, my gosh, I can't believe that there isn't a place in this town that actors can't call or go to be handheld through these first few steps. In a legitimate way. If you had like a built-in friend already, here's a good photographer, here's how you do a resume. Here are the agents that kind of consider newer people. Okay, just the basics. So I said, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. So I started a company called Step One.
Did you work out of your apartment?
No, at first I did because I didn't have a penny.
Of course.
And I wanted to focus on parents first with kids because they did get the most response from agencies. They just always look at the kids, and plus I knew they could afford to pay for a service to help them. Okay. I was able to talk this company on Wilshire Boulevard who had office space. I knew they weren't there on the weekends. I asked them if they would let me use their office on Saturday and Sunday, and I'd be happy to pay them, for those weekends.
Smart.
But I said, I don't have any money to give you right. If you just give me the first weekend, I'll pay you. And, somehow they agreed to that. Okay. So I started cold calling. Remember when we used to use phone books?
Yeah.
I had no other way but to get parents in a meeting with me. I picked up, and I had a roommate. I picked up a phone book and I started cold calling people and explained my.
But you did, yeah.
Most people got off the phone with me quickly. But once in a while, somebody would say, you know what? I do have a friend who has a kid who's kind of looking to kind of get into that, and I would get their phone number. That's how I'd get my leads. And this was like early in a week. I remember this. I got fired like on a Monday, and Tuesday I started putting all this together and making these phone calls. And I would get so upset making these phone calls of just being hung up on so much, and just having one person out of maybe 15 calls even give me the time of day. Literally, I would I'd go out to the backyard, I'd cry a little bit and
Come back and
vomit,
make more.
and then go right back and open that book again.
Beginning anything
Because you know what? Because I had to make it work.
you had no choice.
Urgency.
Mm-hmm.
No choice but to do it. Somehow, by Friday, I had like 4 people scheduled for Saturday, parents with kids. I had 4 people scheduled for Saturday. I had 8 people coming in. Okay. They sat down in front of me. I was just completely transparent. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I can help with. Here's what, the end result would be. Here's what it would cost, for this service to help you through all of this. 6 of the 8 wrote me checks that day. Amazing. As a consultant to help them get their kids started in this business. So the next day I went and that office space for the month, and then I put the rest into advertising. Okay. And so I started advertising strategically. Phones would ring in more. Then some producer at KFI Radio heard about what I was doing, and they brought me on their show.
And that really helped. Fireworks.
I didn't have enough time.
Wow.
Phone rung off the hook. Okay, with parents. Okay. So then I get offices. So I get off my own offices in Crossroads of the World on Sunset Boulevard.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And so I started advertising now, even though the parents thing was fine, it served its purpose. I wasn't as passionate about that as I was offering something to actors like myself that had come out. Right. If I wasn't the one that was going to be able to make it, I certainly wanted to help actors, okay, that were coming in that didn't have anybody. So I started advertising, locally for that, and that kicked in, and that started doing really well. And one day, a young woman walked in, and it was a Friday, and it was my last appointment, so I was a little bit more relaxed, didn't have anybody else coming in after her. We start talking, engaged in conversation, and we just clicked. And we've been married now 25 years.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So you started dating and everything after that appointment. Unbelievable, which led to marriage.
Marriage and children and all of that. And so once we got married, we had a heart-to-heart.
Listen, she came in, but she didn't have any kids at the time.
Oh, she was a school teacher. Oh. And she wanted to get a commercial agent for the summertime to try to make some extra money doing commercials. Okay. So that was her thing. And she had no idea how to do it. Okay. And she saw my ad and she called me.
Wow.
And she booked an appointment.
Wow.
And there you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
right there.
And so we had a heart-to-heart, once we got married. And even though I loved this company and it ran for a decade, 10 years, I started it at 24, 25 years old, and I want to say too, that once I got into my other focus, I never once doubted that moment when I surrendered. Okay. That's when I left everything behind. Okay. And everything from that point on felt perfect.
Yeah, you never had a day like when you were in complacency land.
No.
Yeah.
And I tell you what the difference felt like. It felt like being in a relationship that looked good on paper, but something wasn't quite right about it. And you didn't know how to fix it. And eventually you break up. And then you start to think, man, I'm never just going to find somebody. And then you find that person and everything clicks and everything is perfect. And it's the person you end up with the rest of your life. That was the kind of the analogy of how this worked. The acting thing for me was a choice I made very, very young. And it really wasn't the destination. I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
And you would have never convinced me of it at the time. But it wasn't. It was just a step into what I was really supposed to do.
So do you agree when people say you need to want it so bad that you just know that that's all that you want to do, which is, of course, the act.
Yeah, I to do it effectively,
Yeah.
I think, yes. I mean, I know that my work ethic, isn't even comparable at all to what it was when I was pursuing an acting career. I mean, my work ethic in doing what I love to do, and so just so I don't get off the mark too much here. So my new wife and I decided that even though we loved this company that I had, and it was unique and it was helpful to people, okay, it was never going to put kids through college someday.
Okay.
There was certainly a ceiling because I wasn't charging much money for this service, and I was giving it away if an actor couldn't afford it. Really, I wasn't going to say no to somebody if they were broke. I mean, I was going to help them regardless, kind of. I mean, so it was fine as I was single.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was good because there's always a lot of actors coming to town, so I always had a flow. But there was never real business with my company. It wasn't like, after you have an agent, after you have great pictures in your resume and an agent, then we can do this. It wasn't the next step. It wasn't that good of a businessman to figure out what that would be to offer. Okay. And so my service was just a one and out to everybody. Fortunately, there was just a ton of people coming through, so it worked. Okay. But once I had to really make some money, it was time to just really start new, and I knew I always kind of liked representation, and because I was older at this point,
35.
Hard to start all over, I thought, you know what? Let me go into an agency, a smaller agency. Maybe not a great agency, but I could probably skip with my experience and having this company, I could probably skip the whole agent assistant trainee program and just kind of maybe go right into a smaller agency as an agent.
Smart move.
So I put the feelers out, find a smaller agency, and that happened. Okay. And even though I was very gung-ho, and I noticed quickly, there was just stuff I didn't know. Okay, there were limitations on what I could do.
Can you give an example when you say stuff you didn't know? Just what's one example of stuff you didn't know?
Negotiating a contract well, and the people that I wanted, the level of actors that I wanted to sign would have had much better options than me, and much better options than the agency that I was with. Okay. So I quickly saw that I had put myself into a position where there was a low ceiling. Okay. And I also realized that if I was really going to do this, I had to learn this from the level that I wanted to achieve someday.
Nobody does special programs like One-on-One Next Level. It's where we really help actors shine.
I'm Emilio. I signed with my Southeast agent right after the Atlanta trip, and now I'm auditioning several times every month. And I almost didn't do the Atlanta trip because I thought it was just another cash grab. I can tell you from experience that it's not. That's not how One-on-One Next Level rolls. And here we are 6 months later, and I already booked my first job with my Atlanta agent.
I'm Rebecca, and the Bridge program demystified the industry for me. It gave me the platform to get off book in under 10 minutes. I met 60 new artists that are now all a part of my community, and I even signed with a manager. I have never walked away from a program so confident in my abilities. I'm so grateful for One-on-One Next Level.
My name is Capenna, and I can finally call myself a working actor after participating in the LA Super Showcase. I had just moved to LA and I felt stuck. I came across the LA Super Showcase, and let me tell you, it was a life-changing experience. I signed with an agent, and since then, I've been auditioning for series regulars and booked my first TV job. I finally feel like I made it to the next level, thanks to One-on-One Next Level.
In the next 12 months, One-on-One Next Level will host 27 special programs bringing you unmatched, exclusive access to industry connections. Special programs aren't just a one-and-done class. Instead, they're designed to accomplish in a weekend what it takes most actors months, even years to do. So whether you want to get repped in a smaller market like Atlanta, bypass casting directors and connect directly with TV showrunners and decision makers, or spend a weekend meeting a bunch of musical theater industry professionals in New York City, you have to become a member to be eligible to sign up for our special programs. To apply, go to www.oneononenextlevel.com. We can't wait to hear your success story.
So I made a list of like 5 agencies that were just like, Academy Award winning actors, the actors that I had, always admired. I made a list of the agencies that I wanted to be like someday. So I sent out just like this passion letter. I had to do something that was different because, again, I'm much older than anybody else being an assistant. This woman calls me, Susan Smith.
Whoa.
Okay. Top dog
She
agency.
was. Yes, she was.
LA, New York, London. It was one of the most successful privately owned agencies ever. Okay. Susan Smith.
Oh,
That's right. And she was just a force of nature. And she provided a home for actors that wanted more of a boutique experience than they wanted CAA.
Yeah, more of like a manager experience, right?
More like a manager experience. The problem with her was that she was very difficult.
Controlling.
Very controlling, very difficult to work for, notoriously difficult to work for.
Yeah.
Infamously difficult. Like swimming with the sharks.
Yes.
But she was to my little. I think she was very curious about me after reading that. So she called me up, and I had researched everybody that I sent to very well beforehand because I didn't want to waste anybody's time or my own because I needed this next step to work. So I'd done my due diligence. She calls me up like at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was not awake yet. I answered the phone, asleep. And she said, is this Mitch Clem? I said, yes. She goes, hi, this is Susan Smith. And of course, I woke up instantly. And she said, I've got your letter here. I was thinking, maybe you could be at my office in about an hour.
Oh, boy.
Yes, ma'am. Hung up the phone, got dressed, drove out to Beverly Hills, walk into these magnificent offices, walk into the lobby. There's just business and people and energy and phones ringing and people talking and yelling down halls. And it was just, wow. It was like walking into an energy field. Okay. So I go into her office and I sit there in her beautiful office. And she said, and she would talk to me. She goes, I just thought that, she goes, I was touched by your letter, and I just thought you might like to be in an environment like this to kind of see how it works, just to kind of watch. Okay. And she goes, and feel free when I'm not on the phone to ask me anything, but you just sit there and you just listen and you watch. Okay. I did. And we talked, when she wasn't on the phone, and she asked me a lot of questions and I asked her a lot of questions, and she had 2 assistants. She had a number 1 and a number 2. Number 1 was executive. Number 2 was personal. And, I found out, and I'd read this before I met with her, that she goes through assistants maybe for lunch and don't come back.
Right.
They're completely disposable.
And she makes them cry.
Yeah. And so she said to me, I spent like 4 or 5 hours with her. And then she said, I'm sorry, I can't offer you a job. She said, I just don't have an opening. But I just, I was impressed by your letter, and I just wanted to, meet you. So
Wow.
I said, thank you. I said, I tell you what, I said, I really appreciate you letting me be in your office and see how you work. And it just solidifies the fact that I would love to learn this from you. And I said, I understand you don't have an opening, but I am more than happy to just volunteer my time and work here for free.
Wow.
And I said, the only thing I would ask is that if and when an opportunity does arise, that I would be considered for it based on
Your performance.
my performance. And I mean, she looked at me and she said, there's no other answer than yes for that. She goes, I don't even, I mean, sure, she goes, I'll see you tomorrow.
You go in there and how
I go in there, and I go in there, I show up like 8 a.m, and at about 10 o'clock in the rush of getting breakdowns out, and everybody's crazy and it's super urgent and everybody's screaming and yelling and she's driving everybody crazy with her assistants. One of the assistants walks into the copy room to get something done, and that she just went over. She just lost consciousness.
Lost consciousness.
Yeah, she fainted or
Whoa.
something. And literally, I witnessed this. Literally, they just pulled her to the side.
Oh my God!
And,
Wow.
and everything just
Continued.
continued. It was like a tornado.
Like a hurt football player.
Yeah.
The next guy in.
And so I only worked free for half a day.
Wow.
So I was in
So did she
instantly.
say, hey, Mitch, you got the job? Wow. That's incredible.
You know why? It wasn't even discussed.
Yeah,
It was just like, go. It was like, go.
How long were you there for?
I was there. Well, let me tell you this. There wasn't a day went by that in my drive to work, I would pull up at a red light. I would hate to pull up at red lights because it would give me a second to actually reconsider continuing the drive.
Wow, that was stressful.
Yeah.
A lot of stress.
That bad. A lot of big stress.
What was the biggest stressful thing?
How it hurt.
No,
She was
okay.
impossible.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
she
Wow.
threatened me. I mean,
Oh.
she was just, she was just like,
You're not good at, like,
she's like, she goes, and of course she listened to every word out of my mouth on the phone. So she goes, every time you pick up a phone, every time you talk to a client, I want you to act like that your job is at risk, because it is.
Wow, you're working out of fear. That was her philosophy.
Oh yeah.
Make people
But
fearful.
I knew if I could just stick with this. I knew she was the golden ticket, though.
Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka. I was in Willy Wonka here.
Okay.
And if I could just endure this, okay, it would put me into this profession. Okay.
How long?
Well, I'll put it this way. We went through probably, you're going to think this is crazy. I became number one pretty quickly, assistant executive. And we went through 50 number twos.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
They would sometimes we'd go through 3 a week sometimes. And one might, if they were resilient, and if I buffered them enough, might last 2 weeks.
Jeez.
That might have been the longest I saw somebody.
Really?
I stayed about 3.5 years
Whoa.
on her test.
Oh my goodness.
And then we had it. And she had done something to me, actually, that was just that was the last straw. And I felt like I'd been there long enough at this point to go into a real agent job. I feel like it had served its purpose.
Mitch, hold on. Before the 3.5 years, was there some time in that 3.5 year span? Because you're the kind of guy, I would think that most people, there'd be a moment where you and her at one time had lunch together, just the two of you. That ever happened?
Sure.
Okay. Because I would think that you somehow got to her heart a little bit.
Oh yeah. You know what? No. She had this unique personality. She could be lovely. She could be very lovely and very maternal even towards me.
Yeah, I would think that
but she could, she had this whole other side that would just be awful. Okay, so she was charming. She had a charming side to her, which I think really even made it all worse because it made you feel like, okay, well, she's not that bad. That was nice of her. She knew it was my anniversary and she gave me a credit card and said, you know what? You take your wife out tonight, wherever you want to go, and it's on me. Well, that would buy a little tolerance right there. And she would constantly say to me, she would call me in her arms, she goes, Mitchell, dear. She'd close her eyes and go, look, I know people from Oklahoma are slow. She said, however, we need to work on you, okay? But I'm your biggest fan, so I'm not going to give up on you.
Whoa.
See, she would
that's great.
Yeah. So she would and as she would leave for the day, she would say to me, she would go, tough day. Maybe we'll do better tomorrow. And then she would be out the door.
That's called passive abuse.
Oh my God. It was just, and you know what? It was just this like, it's okay.
Okay.
Because I said to myself, if she wasn't difficult, I wouldn't have a job. Because there wouldn't have been one available. Okay.
Yeah.
Because she's difficult.
That's interesting.
It brought me this opportunity. And I wasn't about to let her win.
Good for you.
I could be as stubborn as her, just in the long game.
Right.
And that just meant taking it. She wouldn't let me really say my name when I would deal with people. I couldn't really say, hi, this is Mitch from Susan. She didn't want us to have any identity.
Wow.
It had to be, we were just extension of her.
Yes.
So, she didn't want us to have our own, our own color.
Hmm. So 3.5 years, what do you do?
Well, I tell you, so that was it. I was finally out, and it did not end like I wanted it to because it ended in a way where I just ended up walking out.
Okay.
Because of some crazy stuff she is, which I'm really just not going to get into.
You don't have to.
However, as I was looking for, and I got to tell you, let me tell you this. I put out emails to the agencies looking for an agent job. I don't remember how many I put out, maybe not that many, 20, 10 called.
Of course. Yeah,
Just from
great experience. Of course.
Everybody wanted. Mm-hmm. Because I will tell you,
played at the World Series.
You've never seen a person work like this woman.
Yeah.
She could do anything. She could solve anything. She was a legendary negotiator. If there was any problem that would come up, she could fix it in a couple of sentences even. I mean, she was just, when there was a problem, the whole office is, oh my God, what are we going to do? They're on set and here's what's happening, blah, blah, blah. She'd walk into the situation and you could literally just go, it's handled now because she's doing it. It was like Captain Kirk coming onto the bridge, that's surrounded by Klingons. And here comes Kirk and saves the day. She was that great. Okay. You have to be that great to be able to get away with having a toxic environment.
Yeah.
Because people tolerate it. Because you're playing an A game. So I get a lot of response. Phone rings one night. It's her. Oh, 4 days have gone by.
Oh, my
4 days.
goodness.
And she told me that she
missed you.
No, didn't miss me. Needed.
Yeah. Okay.
Because she had found out that she was ill.
Like a terminal.
And she had to have immediate surgery. Okay. And she said, she goes, you need to find it within yourself to come back here and help me. She goes, I can't do it without you. So,
She make an offer you couldn't refuse.
Nope.
Okay, that's the key.
She didn't. But I looked at it like an opportunity to be able to close this chapter in the way that I had originally wanted to close.
Wow, 4 days later after
So I
you
went back.
Okay.
Okay. She had the surgery. It was a long recovery. I stayed with her. Not stayed with her, but
She didn't give you no raise or anything like that? Okay, all right.
Yeah. And when she started coming back into the office, I wasn't quite sure how this was going to wrap up. Now that she was coming back, I could tell we were starting to kind of go back into,
Chemistry.
ground.
Yeah.
And one day she walks over to me and she tells me to stand up, and she looks me right in the eyes, and she puts her arms around me, hugs me.
Wow.
And she said, I want you to know you saved my life. And she said, I want you to go. She goes, we're done.
No, I know.
And she handed me an envelope. And she said, here's a check. She goes, this will help you out, so you don't have to find something immediately. And she goes, and I want you to know, if you ever need anything, even place here, she goes, I better be your phone call.
Wow. Whoa.
That was it. And that was
what an ending.
That was the ending.
That propelled you to be like the rest of your life.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't done it yet,
that was the
please
ending.
support Heart to Heart with
It
a
was.
5-star rating and a review.
One of the good problems working for her is that when I went into my next agency as a real rep, I saw every flaw.
Yeah.
Because see, she didn't tolerate flaws.
Right.
I mean, you made a flaw in front of her, you could be fired over it. So there was no room for error.
Can you give one example of a flaw that you noticed?
Say the wrong thing to a client.
Oh.
Tell the client the wrong day on an appointment, and they show up and nobody's there.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I mean, you're gone.
Yeah, but in other places they would make a mistake. Yeah.
People do make mistakes. But it's like it was like coming out of the military. I mean, I was just like, I could hear somebody on the phone and think they shouldn't say that.
Amazing.
I mean, it was just like having this hyper sensitivity to every flaw that went by. And
what made you choose the place that you chose after her? Because you had all these offers. What made you
Here's
choose?
what did it. That's a great question. Here's what did it. The one drawback I had was that I was not bringing with me a client base to an agency. Okay, a lot of agencies hire agents that already have clients,
Right.
and they just join.
The income for the agency.
That's right. I was a rarity in that I didn't have that. Okay, I can't take
hers.
all hers. So I came empty-handed. So I found a company that allowed me to work the existing clients, that allowed me to sign people for myself as the point person, who would also pay me a salary with, of course, benefits. So I felt like not only was I going to be able to pay my bills at this place just on the salary, but I was going to be able to build my list and develop my own people,
which is your thing.
So I kind of found that ideal place. It wasn't a great agency, but it wasn't a bad agency.
And the price
was right. Everything fit right.
Yes.
I actually negotiated a really good deal for myself.
And for them, because they got you.
And for them. And the people I did sign, we booked a couple of series right off the bat. So there was income coming in to that company from my signing as well. Okay. So, it was
Once again, that choice that you made, right? You used all of your skills, even before Suzanne Smith, the company that you founded.
Step one, right?
All those things culminated to your being able to negotiate.
And I can't tell you how many times when I'm meeting a prospective client representation, I know they've got 10 other interviews, okay? And somehow I've got to be the choice here. I get, with this person, it's got to be me and not the 9 others, okay? I find that I tap into some sort of energy that I had doing step one, where I had to make that sale. Okay. Because having come out as an actor, knowing what I knew actors needed to hear to sell a service as a consultant really gave me the ability to speak actor very well.
And you're also speaking from the heart.
100%. Because I honestly feel that I'm the best choice of those 9 people. Because that's how you, and so I've always been real fortunate with signing. Okay. And I think a lot of it was just based on the fact of my unique history kind of adds to that ability right there to be able to really have that type of a conversation with an actor, to where it feels like it's an organic, good fit to move forward into a future that could be timeless together. Okay. I don't want to feel that I'll outgrow them and they're not going to feel like they're going to outgrow me, no matter where it goes. Okay. And I honestly feel that. And so it all ended up almost to this full circle because after about 4, 5, 6 years with this company that helped me build with my own client list, I was then able to go out on my own, which is where I am now.
That's incredible.
And just be self-employed like I was originally, right? But with this skill set, full circle back to this.
And you must love it.
Oh, I do.
You can tell.
Myself. I do.
You can tell. You can tell.
What? All because I had a real conversation on my knees one day. It forced me to go back to pick a moment where life turned around, and you take away the obvious ones like meeting my wife, a child being born. Okay, when you take away ones that just you yourself changed your life, it was that day that I surrendered it. And I said, just take me. I'll listen now. Okay. But you got to listen and you got to follow through.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't done it yet, please support Heart to Heart with a 5-star rating and a review.